All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Worldwide Academy Training Services discussion today. I'm Donna Penna, Executive Director, and this is my sidekick and instructor, Thurston Gill, the man with all of the knowledge in this group, actually.
The truth.
He is the man with the info, and I just so appreciate everything that I've learned from him. I really do more of the administrative end of things, putting together trainings and getting out recordings and social media and that stuff. But I am so grateful for all that I have learned through Thurston's teachings and trainings, and he's got more. He's like a fountain. I mean, he is just going to and giving freely this information. So welcome, Thurston. I hope you're having a good day. I know he's working his job today. As always, he's a hard worker. And we're ready. We're going to talk today. I want you to make sure that you have a pen and paper. Take some notes. Make sure that you push the like button, subscribe, and share, please, to help us get this information out to more people. This is, this is something that we've been called to do. It is, we're not looking for money, to get rich off of this or anything. We are just really trying to reach more people with this information and trying to save lives, keep people safe, healthy, so that, we can live a full life and not be caught off guard by some of the things that are going on in our world today and the surprises. So wanted to talk about weather today because I don't know if y'all noticed, but things have ramped up as far as the weather is concerned. We are seeing things around the world that we've never experienced in our lifetime. I know we just had heavy rains over the weekend, and not too far from where I'm located, they saw flash flooding, which, they were saying, they were calling it 1,000-year floods. They had not seen in years, and maybe once. People lost everything. These are the kinds of things that come up suddenly, but the technology is out there. If we're paying attention, we can get the warnings. If you're part of our group or any other group that does emergency preparedness, you should have some things on hand to be prepared. So this discussion about weather, I hope will push you a little bit more if you're not prepared, or to help others get prepared, because we are going to continue to see crazy weather. We've got some trends that have some patterns. I'm not a weather person, I'm not a weather girl. But and there's some really good people that you can find on YouTube. And you'll see I post some of them in our Worldwide Academy Training Services Emergency Prep group. If you're not a part of that, please go join that. It is a private group, but there's a couple of questions you just need to answer. But get in there and learn and share. We're always looking for people to share. But we've got to be prepared. We've got to be alert. And so today we're going to talk about weather. So Thurston, go ahead, take it away.
Okay, hello everybody. Thanks again for the intro, Donna, although you put a little bit more glaze on it than is necessary. But I like the idea that these video clips are more discussion oriented as opposed to me being the answer man type of thing. And so let's get to it. When it comes to weather-related emergencies, the idea is prepare, yes, but our preparation has to be consistent with the season. And so I'm going to just focus on the areas that I think that most people are lacking in terms of weather-related emergencies, and one of those areas is not being able to, or not committing themselves to prepping for each season. And what I mean by that is that if we're in the summer, then our emergency preparedness should reflect what potential issues we're going to be experiencing in the summer. Having winter wear and preparing for emergencies for cold weather is not going to be helpful as much as it would be if we prepared for the summer. So you got to get my drift there. That's an area that is neglected because, I mean, let's put it out there. It's going to take more time and commitment, right? It's already like hard just doing the prep thing from where we are right now, right? But to have to review, have to assess, have to transition from one season to the next, that's going to take a commitment, a space of time in our heads, in our hearts, and in our day to do that. But unless you can figure out a different way to do it, that's what we have to do. And if you have figured out a different way to do it, please share it with us so that we can enjoy the same benefits.
Yeah.
Okay. So emergency prepping has to be seasonal. Right now we're in the summer. We should have been prepared for the summer. In addition to that, during the summer, we should be preparing for the fall and the winter. You kind of get my drift.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that not that we are in the midst of the season and then we're trying to play catch up when something happens. Let's be prepared prior to the season so that when or if we need anything, we're already set up to be able to do that. The other issue is, Donna mentioned it, is that in every area of the country here in the US, we are experiencing different weather conditions that we customarily see. There are record-breaking occurrences that we're experiencing that we're not pretty much prepared for. We have to start paying attention to the fact that there are certain conditions that may manifest that typically in our region we're not used to. We just can't just talk about it. We have to prepare. I'm going to give you an example. We have had flooding within the last couple of weeks, but prior to that, we were in a severe dry season.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some areas that were dealing with forest fires, and we were experiencing the aftermath or the runoff of the smoke from the forest fires in Canada for a couple of weeks. Well, I was in the backyard with my family, and we were in the backyard grilling in the fire pit and playing music and what have you. And I turned my head and turned back, a couple of minutes or so, and I saw that the grass was on fire around the fire pit. And I had to extinguish it. The grass was so dry that an ember easily started. Now, that's the first time that has happened to me in the, I don't know, maybe 15 years that I've had the fire pit, where the grass caught on fire around it, which got me to thinking. See, I have prepped for and planned for a fire occurring in my house to be able to evacuate out of it, but I never considered what people go through with forest fires, where they have to plan for a way to get out of their house. And so these are the things we can't ignore. We have to follow the trends. We have to not ignore them. And I believe the Lord is good. He gives us fair warning we just ignore them many times.
Yeah.
Donna mentioned technology and early warnings. We need to pay attention to the early warnings. Over and over again, I see, and you see as well, situations where there are weather conditions that occur where people find themselves in dangerous situations. And many times they're in those dangerous situations because they fail to adhere to the warnings, or they just don't know about them.
Mm-hmm.
That's no good. It's really no good. And I don't want to whine about this, but I think I speak for many rescuers and first responders. People risk their lives to help people get out of trouble. But when you can avoid trouble, please do so, because when you get yourself in a fire, somebody else has to make a commitment to risk their lives to get you out of it.
Right. Right.
So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Is we have to do our due diligence. Okay. And one thing too that I notice about people, and I think I've kind of realized this during the pandemic, it's like when the experts aren't sure about something, it's like the public or individuals within the public feel that's a green light to come up with their own hypothesis and their own solutions that do nothing but get themselves and get everybody else in trouble. Listen to the people that are experts. There's a reason why they're called the experts. They know a little bit more than we do. So it doesn't cost anything to be careful. No, I'm sorry. No, I take that back. Sometimes it costs a lot to be prepared. So I take that back. But I will say this, preparation has saved a lot of lives. I don't remember I don't remember a situation where preparation caused somebody to lose their life. So
yeah, and again, as you're talking about all these things, and even going back to preparing ahead for the next season, I actually had that thought the other day. Now, what do I need to do to prepare for the winter, the fall? And as again, it always comes back to this mindset.
yes.
This preparedness mindset.
Exactly.
And we talk about this every single recording, and it's not to be obsessed with it or paranoid or afraid, but once your eyes are open, once you become aware and you start to think on these things. I don't know what that was. Sound.
What that was.
Oh. Yeah, it's a mindset thing. I wanted to be able to add my own sound effects, but I don't know where they are. So whoever's doing it, thanks. I appreciate that. Somebody might be in there.
I don't know. That would have been a good sound effect for when the question bounces off my head, but timing was all off.
There you go. Oh, somebody else might be in on the call. We may have to. Yeah, I don't know.
And true, it really is a mindset. But this is not something, the thing about it though, Donna, people need to understand, we're not asking people to do something that is alien. These are characteristics and mindsets that civilization has had, but we've kind of trained out of them. I think, to me, the best examples of individuals that that they kind of live this lifestyle of preparedness, and is farmers. I think
Mhm.
I think they've always had it, and they've many of them have never lost it. And there's a sense of, if anything is going to happen, I got to make it happen type of thing. I can't depend upon anybody else. I can't depend upon utilities. I just have to make it happen. And that's the lifestyle that
Right.
they live. And we really don't have that type of lifestyle, many of us. I mean, I'm just looking at the trend of young people, where they choose to live now. They don't want to live in some suburbs. There's not as many younger people that want to live in the suburbs anymore with a house or work some farm somewhere. No, they want to live in a city where everything is done for them, where the action is. But
Oh,
what they're saying is they want to live in an environment where everything is provided and convenient.
well, and they're creating those cities now. What are they called? 10 cities, 10, what is it called? I forget. Where they create this whole neighborhood with everything in it
Yes,
within walking distance, right there for them. And
exactly. And it
about
is
that,
selling
I've
like
got my
hotcakes.
opinions about that, but we won't get into that today.
But it's selling like hotcakes, and I don't blame them, in a sense that, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about mowing a lawn. I don't have to worry about, you know, uh, they even have it in some buildings. They'll have buildings with everything in them, the little
Yes,
mall, everything.
yes,
So again, I don't want to badmouth where people choose to live. What I'm saying is, and I do know people that still live in those environments, but they have the same mindset. They understand, hey, what if this all shuts down? What am I going to do? I
right,
have to make plans to do that, and that's what we want to encourage.
right. And I think farmers, going back to them, they have to think the next season.
Oh
They
yes,
have to be ready.
you have to be ready. There's no I'm about to get ready when you need to be ready.
Right,
It doesn't work. Okay.
right.
Which brings up another issue. Because we're so dependent upon utilities, many of us don't we don't consider the fact that in many weather emergencies, it will result in a termination of many utilities. And if that does occur, have you prepped for that?
Mhm.
Even the basic things. Have you prepped for the fact that a particular weather emergency has prevented you from just flushing the toilet?
Mhm. I learned that.
Yeah.
I
What do you
learned
do?
that. And
Yep.
and I learned that when I was in an area where there was an ice storm and everything was out. Excuse me, we had a generator, which we got then, but you couldn't flush the toilet. And because of it was on a farm actually. And but we learned how to use water, stored up water. And so
You,
that's one thing I make sure that I have now because of that,
you gotta,
you know?
gotta make do, or you guys gotta make do. That's what I have to say about that. But
Yes.
you have to prepare for things like that. I mean, I even learned that there's also a possibility that if the sewer system is down in a catastrophic event, that there are steps you need to take to make sure that all the sewage doesn't back up out of your toilet.
Yeah.
I forget what the technical term is for it, but I've been talking to people just to kind of clue me in as to how do I prevent that from happening. If I'm already dealing with the issues of not having water, not having sewer service, and what have you, I don't want the added issue of everything in this sewage system backing up out of my toilet into my bathroom.
Oh, gosh.
Can you? Yeah, I
No,
mean,
yeah, we don't want that.
but again, this is something that we've been made aware of. what kind of steps are we taking to make sure that doesn't happen in case of emergency?
Mm.
Okay. So utilities is just
Speaking of utilities, I came across something a couple weeks ago. I forget where it was, but I mean, the extreme heat has also been, an issue in areas. Something that I never thought about is that when we're talking about utilities, that the wires, did we realize that the wires can actually melt if it in certain heat, I came across that actually on another, I don't know what it was. It was probably a prepping site, but yeah, like that's something you don't think about. Like, oh, you can think the electricity gets, the whole brownout thing, that cutting down that, but those places where it gets extremely bad,
yes,
some of this
equipment
wire,
overheats. Yeah,
yeah,
equipment overheats and it fails. That's true. I to be honest with you, I never really thought about that.
I never did either until this person brought it up. And because it was, I mean, there's places that have been so hot this summer,
Yeah.
even them above what they are usually used to dealing with, Texas and those areas in the US. So yeah.
And heat is it's no joke. I mean,
Mm.
I can't imagine not being able to not have air conditioning at 103 degrees outside. I just can't imagine that. Winter emergencies, I pretty much got it nailed down. I can always keep warm. But how do you keep cool when utilities are out? It's a challenge. It's quite a challenge.
It's like a cascade effect,
Yeah.
I spoke to someone of a friend in Texas who was so hot there, and she was on the second floor
Uh,
her home, and she just had some fans going, and the air conditioning wasn't really reaching the room she was in, and it was like, whew. You think about, oh, well, no, you can't have ice if you're electric. Unless you go out and get it. If you can go out and get it, you could, I mean.
And you can't have a fan either.
And I saw a picture the other day, I don't know if you saw this. I think I see it every year in China, where people went to an amusement park where a pool, like they apparently, I don't know, I forget the whole story about it, but there were tons of people in this water in
Cooling off.
tubes, like next to each other, like this here, there. I'm like, what in the?
And it was just trying to keep cool.
I guess I don't know what the deal was. I don't remember the story, but it was like, oh my goodness, that cannot be fun. I mean, you can't even move.
Yeah. And I just, yeah.
And how do you get out of that when you're
Not for me.
packed in there like fish, like sardines?
Yes. Again, I got a plan not to be amongst that number.
Be there.
Yeah, I do. I'm just not. Yeah, I don't want to be. I don't want to be there. And I was going to say something about that. Well, so utilities, we have to plan for situations where we just don't have utilities. And I'm not talking about just lights, talking about water, electricity that runs certain things. I remember as a young man, actually wasn't too young, to be honest with you, years ago, when the power went out in my area in New Jersey. And the power went out, and in addition to the power going out, the water supply was contaminated because there was no power to filtrate the water. So again, it's this cascade effect where you couldn't drink the water without it being treated. and there was no power in our area.
Mm.
And I remember and took a note in my mind. We were a young family at that time, took a note in my mind. Oh my gosh, because of the flood, I'm sorry, because of the power outage and a flood, it affected our water, electricity, and you couldn't get gas in any of the gas stations because you need electricity to pump the gas out.
Right.
So we had to go to the surrounding towns to just go to a restaurant to eat because none of the restaurants were open because they the power, and those that tried to work around the power couldn't provide water because
Yeah.
it was crazy. But I said, mental note, you got to remember what utilities affect what. And people that go into living situations where I discourage people, if they take an apartment that is all electrical,
Mm-hmm.
I strongly recommend not taking that apartment. Especially if you're responsible for the electrical bills. But even if you're not,
And you better have something else.
oh, you better have a lot of something else. Have a lot of something else. So that's all I have to say about utilities.
Mm-hmm.
We have to really consider in what manner can they affect our preparedness. The other issue is, and I bring it up often,
Is what? Say that again.
I bring it up very often. It's like a burr in my shoe.
Oh,
A lot of people go through a lot of effort, and God bless them, they do a lot of effort in preparing to stay sheltered in place.
mm-hmm.
But they've done very little to no preparation for the fact that they might have to evacuate.
Yeah.
And I'm going to harp on this over and over again because some people are, mentally speaking, they're stuck in the mud on this because of the sense of security and safety they feel at home, that they've gone through great lengths to make sure it feels that way. The last thing that they plan to do is to leave it. And understand that there may be a time where you will have to evacuate from your place that you're sheltering in safety from. It's just something we have to embrace the idea of, especially if we are responsible for the care of others.
Yeah. And it's, there may be people that don't have family in the area, whatever area they're in, that they can go to. I would hope that we as, neighbors would be able to, I mean, again, depending on what the situation is, at least be able to point people somewhere. If we have somebody that's elderly by themselves, or somebody new to the neighborhood or the area, or just a loner, that we would be able to help that. I know we think of ourselves right away, of course,
Yes.
but in our families, but to expand, our our desire to help others in those
Yeah.
situations too. So,
And I know that's the first fallback as far as excuses or reasons, or the reason for the excuse that people fall back on. Oh, I don't have any place to go. Well, let's take some steps to make some place to go.
mhm.
You have to do due diligence. I mean, You can't depend upon everybody else to do stuff that you don't feel like doing.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make plans. We have to make plans to leave if we have to. And so what's involved in that? It's making sure you have a place to go. I, for one, don't consider the idea of going to an emergency center set up by government or non-government agencies. That type of environment just doesn't suit me. And
Yeah.
so unless I'm going to suck it up and just go, I have to provide another place for myself, my family to go. And so I will check with friends. And also keep in mind, and again, this is another mental block for people. They don't want to leave their area, but sometimes your safe haven has to be out of the area because it's affecting the surrounding area where you are.
And don't wait till the last minute.
Yes, don't wait till last minute.
I just have this picture of those long lines of people trying to get out of Florida or, on the highways. Don't wait.
It just goes through me. It just goes through me.
That's so scary.
Yes. And it brings up another issue of the cars. Driving out can't be your only means of evacuating an area. It just can't. It just can't. You have to have alternative. Again, we go back to pace planning. You have a primary form of action. You have an alternate for a plan of action. And if that doesn't work, there's a contingency plan. And if that doesn't work, there's an emergency plan. You have to apply that pace planning to evacuating as well. I can see myself, first of all, I wouldn't wait till the last minute, but sometimes situations happen. You find yourself having to wait for family members or, situations come up, but in those situations, I don't plan to be in a line of cars. I plan to be riding a bike going through that line,
The scooter.
Some other way, the scooter, exactly. Some other conveyance. And that's how we have to be thinking. Some other conveyance to get out of the area that is no longer safe for us to be. Okay, so use your imagination. Because my plan may not work for you and your family. You have to find out what works for you.
Get creative. I just saw a video this morning, and this wasn't an emergency, but it was, this family did what they had to do. Their dad was in a wheelchair, and he was had to get on a plane, and they wouldn't be able to push him on in his chair. It wouldn't fit or whatever, wherever he was going to his seat. So his daughter got him on her back, and she carried him in and sat him down in his seat, and when we want to do something where there's a will, there's a way, and we'll do it.
Yes.
And we can find the strength to do it.
That's absolutely right.
But that was a real picture to me of, no, we're going to do this, and we're going to get him in there,
Exactly. I agree. I agree. And also, when it comes to evacuating or moving from one place to another, how we stage our supplies and equipment comes into play here. I would recommend not trying to carry 10 tons of canned goods to a location, especially if you don't have a truck to put it in.
Exactly.
or gas for the truck that you
Unless
plan
that's a
on.
priority to you
Yeah.
over everything else.
Yes, yes. So weight and compactness concerning our food and water and supplies have to be a priority. So
Mm,
toss the canned, keep the canned goods there, but you're gonna have to find other means of carrying food out where it's reasonable and practical to carry. So, for example, all my food, I have very few canned goods compared to the packaged goods that I have for emergencies, like the
mhm.
Nor uh, prepared packets. You just
Right.
add water or add milk.
Yeah, I
I
do.
have a lot of those.
Yeah.
A lot of those. The Go-Gurt packets. I can carry a lot of those. I can carry a lot of that stuff.
Hmm.
And when it comes to evacuating, going someplace else, the recommended rule of thumb is to kind of shoot for food for your entire family for about a week
Hmm.
and water. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stuff.
Goodness. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And if you have animals, gotta do that for them as well.
Wow.
So a lot
Yeah.
of thought needs to be going to this.
Speaking of animals, I had this, we have to do a show on this or a discussion on this sometime. I just have to do some more research, but I started doing some research on this of how nature reacts prior to a storm or a change in the
Yes.
earth.
Oh, yes.
It's fascinating.
It
And,
is.
we were talking about farmers before, but, and again, I think this, it's wonderful that we have all this technology and all, I love what I have. But people who came before us didn't have all that. And they knew, they could tell by the way certain animals acted, birds even chirping as to when it was time to plant whatever they were planting, and how a storm was coming, how they would act. And I watched several videos on this, and I'm fascinated by it, because I was, on my daily walk on the trail one day, and, just because I always do my thinking there and deep
Mhm.
thinking, how does that happen? I wonder and I was like hearing the birds, and I was like, I mean, they even and we all heard this probably with, the leaves on the trees, how they turn before a storm and
Right.
we talked about,
Right.
some trees even like curve up their leaves like this. They're getting ready. It's fascinating. But I was just like, this would be a really good topic of discussion. And who knows? I mean, maybe it won't be us, but maybe our grandkids or their kids, if we're still around then,
Yeah.
might have to go back to that. And if you're going into the
Yes.
wilderness and you
That's
really
right.
want to be living in the wilderness, this is some really valuable information that you could
Right. I
learn.
totally agree. I totally agree.
So,
I often joke around here, around work, where people will complain that, oh boy, it's hot. And I would say to them, it's not hot until you hear the cicadas out in the woods.
oh, that's
Then you
true.
know it's hot.
That's true. Ooh, yeah, it's a fascinating. We gotta do one on that one time.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah.
But as far as my pet peeves, I think that pretty much covers it for me. It's really, again, we're revisiting the same points, is awareness and changing our mindset.
Mhm.
And I think
Yep.
more than anything, when it comes to preparedness, it's not a matter of just preparedness. It's a matter of preparedness. It's a matter of readiness. being in a position that you're capable of doing what needs to be done. Your will is there, your equipment is there, and you're ready to go, but also the willingness to respond and how we respond, training to respond correctly. And in addition to that, and I don't want to leave this out, and I think that's another area we need to talk about very briefly, is recovery.
Mm.
That's the last thing we think about is, okay, the event is over. How do we make things normal again?
Mm.
Clean up. What's involved there?
Yeah.
Um, Insurance claims,
Mm.
taking pictures, um, you know, over and over again, securing your home again. You know,
Yeah.
where after the event, your home is not secure now. Well, now we have to make it secure. How do we do that? Where do we get supplies to do that? You know, so all those things need to be considered and planned out.
A lot to think about.
Yes, a lot to think about.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, I wish I had a magic wand, or I wish I had a quick hacks to wrap it all up in a couple of steps and it's all done. No blood, no sweat, no tears, but no, quite the contrary.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot of sweat, blood, and tears if you want to be prepared, ready, and able to respond and recover from any kind of
Mm.
disaster or climactic event.
Yeah. Wow. Well, any closing thoughts? That maybe that was it.
That was it for me.
Ready as usual. We're sounding the alarm, not to frighten, not to be paranoid, but just possibly save lives or make it a little bit easier, right?
Yes, yes.
Um,
And I don't know where or when we started getting away from doing what we're trying to get people to start doing as basic life skills, because this should be basic life skills, honestly. This should be disaster preparedness, medical emergency preparedness, uh, personal protection. I think these three things should be life skills, along with reading, math, which we still can't get right, it seems. But
yeah, well, I mean, it's as to the technology kept improving and growing, we become more dependent on that. We become lazier.
some people say dumb down.
Yeah, good word for it. Secure in the things instead of, I'll say ourselves, but you know what I mean by that, not, superhuman kind of thing, but just, yeah, I mean, well, we can go down, it's just a spiral.
Mhm.
And while all that is really good, I mean, we have those places where, they've got the alarms that go off for tornadoes and, but, and in those things too, not to become complacent, not to become comfortable with it. Oh, there goes the alarm again. Nothing happened last time or whatever.
Oh,
And they do
yes.
have the technology that is, like I said, I follow some pretty good weather alert stations on YouTube, and they call it before the state or the county or whatever the area will call it. We can see it on the radar. We can actually see this thing now here talking about tornadoes. It's forming, whether it's going to touch the ground or not, but they are really accurate with it, and it's very good. But if we're just going to sit there and watch it,
Exactly. Oh my
it'll
gosh.
just pass over. It's Yeah, so I'm grateful for those things. And I'm grateful for the information that you shared today, Thurston. And we will continue on. Don't forget, everybody, to push the like button, subscribe, share, put some comments below, share what you know. And don't forget also to visit our website. We've got people visiting. We are Worldwide Academy, so we are being visited by some faraway places, which is really cool.
Madagascar.
Hey, worldwide. Yeah, but Worldwide Academy Training Services.org, all spelled out. Facebook and our Facebook, like our Facebook page as well, share, get your friends to come on that. You never know what information you're going to need. Also Facebook group, private groups, pet first aid and CPR. We've got a group for that. And our, of course, our emergency preparedness group. Yeah, so spread the word, and let's get more of you together. Let's get the word out to more people. Let's help more people. That is really
Yes.
our heart's desire.
Yes.
So, oh, and we've got a training that's coming up in August in, where is it? Charlottesville, Pennsylvania. Introduction to Wilderness First Aid. So I think you should check that out. Go on to those pages that I just talked about, and you can see what's going to be covered in the introduction, because there's a lot to cover in that whole subject too. So, all right, Thurston, thank you so much again.
Thank you,
And,
Donna, also for the opportunity as well. And thank everybody.
yes, and we will see you next time. Stay safe, stay prepping, be kind to one another.